is Tuesday, February 11th, 2020. This is a meeting of the Acushnet Board of Selectmen. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got some minutes that have been distributed. Meetings of January 7th, 2020 and January 21st, 2020. Have you both had a chance to review those? I did ask Lisa to make two minor changes. There was a reference to Peckham Road that should have been a reference to Brayley Road. And it said we were going into executive session to finalize the fire chief's contract, and instead we're going into to finalize the police chief's contract. So just some minor tweaks that I don't think change the substance of it.
Very good, Mr. Chairman.
But need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, including the January 7th, 2020 regular session and January 21st, 2020 regular session minutes.
And I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Meeting mail, we've got some approvals for two events. We've got the Tour de Creme, which is a bicycle ride, and the Patriot Half Marathon, and in both cases looking for use of local roads for their events. I believe these are both, the Tour de Creme I know is a repeat event. The Patriot Half Marathon is also. And, you know, been through the process, police chief, fire chief, both, yes. Have signed off on both of them. Neither of these events have been any issue in the past. I see no reason why we wouldn't approve them again.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Tour de Creme local road use and the Patriot Half Marathon local road use as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item up, we have some correspondence from the chief, memo from the chief to the Board of Selectmen regarding a grant that he's received for $6,313 from the Commonwealth Student Awareness of Fire Education Program. The funds will be used once again to provide fire safety education to all third graders, as well as specific programs for our senior citizens. The department has successfully applied and received funding from this grant for several years. So just information from the chief, and we will take money from the state whenever it comes in, and we will use it appropriately. So appreciate the chief's work in getting the grants, and appreciate the Commonwealth sending us the money. And no votes or anything necessary on that. That's just information. Agenda. We have an appointment at this
Mass
says
DOT.
5:05, but our appointment. We've got correspondence from the Mass DOT regarding no parking signs on South Main Street. We've written to the Mass DOT requesting, I think, Mr. DeRoche, you'd raise this perhaps, trucks parking on South Main Street in front of the Dunkin' Donuts, obstructing traffic. We wrote a letter to the. Come on and pull up the chair, Mr. Murray. We wrote a letter to the DOT, and they said they would look at the signs that were in place. I can't find that letter. They'd look at the signs that were in place and got it?
Yep.
And install additional signs if they believe necessary. But I think they're going to check on the quality of the existing signs. I know it was distributed. I think I just closed the file. If that's it.
You got the rest of it.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Mass DOT is responding to your request to replace existing no parking signs and install additional signs in the vicinity of Dunkin' Donuts on South Main Street. It says they'll inspect and replace the existing signage as needed, and will install additional no parking signs where appropriate. So what I said. It should be noted that enforcement of the parking restrictions will continue to be the responsibility of the town. So the issue we discussed was, again, the fact that heavy vehicles were parking in front of the Dunkin' Donuts on South Main Street, obstructing traffic, and we just thought some good signage might be helpful with that. So again, no votes necessary, just for our information for the file, and we'll watch for those signs to change, and hopefully.
And those signs will be installed by the DOT?
DOT.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But did it say, you just said that we get a replacement there?
No, they will
Usually
replace,
usually
yeah.
they take care of, the state takes care of it.
Right, whether it's a state road.
Correct.
Yeah, I suspect if we put them up, they'd remove them and then put them back, right?
Correct.
It's happened in the
Yes,
past.
we have to.
Sarcasm intended. All right, 5:05, Mr. Clark, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So just a brief introduction. The agenda says you're going to be here at 5:05, so I don't know. I think we moved around the starting time for this meeting, but we're fine. We've got a posted meeting. So, so the reason you're here, Julie Hebert is our new town administrator.
Congratulations.
And Ms. Hebert, her background is as the town's chief financial officer, and we've got all kinds of confidence in the fact that she's going to be a very successful town administrator, but she doesn't have a lot of experience as a town administrator. She's been our acting town administrator for the past 4 months. We have hired her as our continuing full-time town administrator, but feel that she may need some support for a coming period of time, to be determined period of time.
Okay.
And working with Mr. Pecos to identify people that could provide support to Ms. Hebert in her capacity, and that support would, and I don't think we've really fleshed that out as a group, but
Yeah.
you know, is probably a couple of days in the office, perhaps being available by telephone, maybe taking on some special assignments that would help Ms. Hebert, but just providing some support for her. And again, I think as a group, we need to figure out what that looks like. We need to figure out what the, you know, the timeline for that's going to be. And initially, we talked about an assignment that would go through fiscal year end, which is June 30th, you know that. But we, you know, that we've not done anything official with regard to that. So just really brought you here today to meet with you and to, you know, get to know you a little better, and maybe hear your ideas as to how you think that could work.
Sure.
But
So
with that introduction to you.
I've given a little bit of thought. I've been doing this for about 30 years. I've been a public administrator and assistant public administrator for about 30 years. I have other irons in the fire. I'm actually in transition. I'm departing the town of Harwich and working on trying to get another position. And during that time, I realized I have a little bit of time available to me where I could help out. One of the things that I've done in my career is try to mentor other people into the profession to help them. I actually also was a professor at Clark University, helping to train kids to learn how to become public administrators. So I have some experience in terms of teaching and helping. In terms of the role, I know having a finance director, you know, that's a great base to have. But I think sometimes collective bargaining, job descriptions, there's a few things that a finance director doesn't normally always get into that an administrator would. So what I would kind of envision is, I don't know if you're outgoing administrator, sometimes they do this, they'll put together kind of a work plan of where they left things and.
Well, we've got a
to-do
list.
list.
We've got a to-do list, don't we?
And what I've done in my last town is I have had somebody come in, actually an administrator with 35 years of experience, who has come in and kind of helped me to do special projects. So I thought, kind of looking at what you have as your to-do list, I'm sure it's longer than you can deal with on your own, that I would come in and maybe meet with Julie, go over that list, get a sense for what are the different items that she would like to have help on, and maybe just talk things out sometimes too. I think being available on the phone is fine. You don't get into this profession without an understanding that you're here to help people and accomplish things. Those are the two things that I would focus on. But I've done special projects from as big as, I think I've done 2 middle high schools, to have those be constructed, to, you name it, I've kind of done it. So I think I would rather make myself kind of available to what Acushnet needs, and then try to provide assistance where I can. If you're trying to overhaul job descriptions, which I did see a little bit on the website that you would like to do some work on job descriptions, that's an area where we can do. If you have issues with collective bargaining, I've actually had a really good track record on collective bargaining, being able to deal with unions and get things accomplished there. But whatever you I've seen a lot. I have had a few quarries or a few earth removal permits, probably 2 or 3 in the 30 years. So I've seen a little bit of different things. So whatever I can do to be of benefit to the community is certainly what I would like. In terms of timing, I am obviously actively engaged in a job search. This would be strictly consulting for me. I'm envisioning about 2 days a week with some flexibility on those days. So if I have an interview, I know I got a call yesterday that I will be named a finalist in another community, but I don't anticipate starting there until July 1. So I have a little bit of flexibility, so I just wanted to kind of lay that out. And I'm flexible. If you feel that you want to send me on my way in 60, 90 days, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But, I'd like to be able to help, and that's kind of what I've done in the past and would like to continue to do. It's just my first venture, so one of the things I noticed in the KP contract, that KP Law has a base contract.
That's been circulated it was emailed to the two of you. Honestly, I haven't reviewed it yet. I just wanted to figure out where we were going before I spent any time.
Yeah, on the boilerplate there, I haven't formed a corporation or anything, so I just do it as an individual. They have, get all these certificates of insurance, quite honestly, if I have to go to an insurance agent and do all that, it's,
I did see
something I'd
that.
have to
I did
mention.
see that.
And I did put in there, it would be small enough that I would just not claim that. But I haven't formed any LLC or anything of that nature, so I'm doing it on my own. And to be honest, I kind of thought for just a new venture, I wasn't going to go through that expense.
Gentlemen, questions? And the resume's been circulated. Did you both get the resume right in the proposed
Yep.
contract? That is out.
Yep.
Any question? I think what we as a group need to do, and we haven't figured that out yet, is what the job is going to look like, what we envision, how often we want to be here. I mean, the 2 days a week for a number of hours a day, and being available on an as needed, so she can pick up the phone and call you if something, there's an issue that she needs to reach you on. Ms. Hebert, any what do you think?
I'm just listening, I'm taking it in.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
are there
I'm not
how would you, from your perspective, how do you think he could support you best? I mean, I like the, I've got a project I can't get to,
Yeah.
and you do it and help me understand how it's done at the same time.
Yeah, I think it would be mostly special projects that come up. And so it's hard to see if it's consistent, 1 week might be heavier than another week. Because right now, from my perspective, we have the budget going on,
Sure.
and we're delayed as it is. Losing Brian in September, so I've been kind of dual rolling it for a while. And the budget is a huge priority, so I know I'm consumed with that. And obviously PG Keating, this is a bigger item, so a lot of the smaller things are hard to pick up, and those would be things that would be easier to have somebody else help out with, I think.
And I hand draft the warrants myself. I mean, I'm a hands-on guy. I do budget presentations for town meeting. I have an open town meeting in Harwich, so I've worked for a mayor, I've done open town meeting, I've been representative town meeting. So even if that, present the budget, do some, charts that show how we're spending money, you name it.
It's a good time of the year to get some help with
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, yeah. Questions?
No, I just, it's just a different name in the pool, so I've done some research on Mr. Clark. I would like the opportunity to just maybe spend some time on the phone with Mr. Clark and ask some questions. I know that we have a rough draft contract here. I've looked through some of that and made some circular things on it that I'm not, amendable to. So, I think it's important that maybe the board set an executive session for the next meeting, so we can maybe discuss this on the contract strategies and see what the board, the chairman has alluded to. We haven't really defined and spoken with Ms. Hebert. I've had some dialogue with Ms. Hebert over the last couple of weeks. I've raised some different concerns now that I was feeling before, and so some of my feelings and emotions have changed, and I'm looking at different things that have come in front of her. So I just think that it's something that the board really needs to get their hands around and say, okay, well, this is what we're looking for, well, this is what we're not looking for anymore, and So I think it's really for the board to get together in a room and, you know, do some analysis of, you know, what's needed, what's not needed, and see how we move forward.
Can we put that on the agenda for the next, we're meeting 2 weeks from?
Executive session contract strategies,
Yeah.
so that, because we do have a contract, so we can talk about that, and then it'll give me some time to open up some dialogue with you, Mr. Clark. I've done my research.
You have my phone number, so you're more than welcome to call.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's right up
Yeah,
there.
the phone number was on the resume, I believe. So, just, I mean, just sincere comments, we're trying to move this along quickly. We're actually, one of the items on the agenda tonight is finalizing her contract, so that's
That's
where
more important, right?
that's where we are, so that's where we are. So,
Okay.
this comes with that, so we hadn't, you know, so like, selected Julie, then went back to Kevin and said, okay, Kevin Pecos, this is
Yeah,
what
I'm
we're
familiar with
thinking,
that.
this is what we need, and, you know, who do you recommend we talk to? So, we're trying to, I think we're moving a little bit, we may be a little bit ahead of ourselves, but our goal will be to get this on the agenda for our next meeting, which is the 25th. By then, we will all have reviewed the proposed contract,
Yes.
and, you know, we'll
Come to a
figure out whether
determination.
that's a meeting you should come to or not, or we talk amongst ourselves beforehand. Well, talk to our.
I'm just here to help, whatever I can do to help.
Appreciate
You
it.
know, it
Sure.
sounded like Kevin thought that it would be valuable, so.
Mhm.
In your capacity, if I could just ask one question
Yeah,
right now,
go,
Mr. Chairman. In your capacity for the town of Howard, I understand that you've tried to come to an agreement with that board to allow you to work just as a consultant.
I'm available to them. I had a separation agreement, mutually agreed upon separation agreement. So
So,
I
in
am
that-
available to them until June 30th.
So in that agreement, as we have in our town administrators agreement, is that in the town charter dictates that you cannot do any other work for anybody else. Do you have that same clause with Howard, so you're not,
We have that same clause, but technically I'm not the administrator anymore.
okay,
I'm on the separation agreement.
okay,
Okay.
okay, that's fine, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. DeRoche, anything? No?
No.
Mr. Gasper, all set?
Yeah, I believe that most of my comments need to go directly to my fellow board members, and I do have some questions for Mr. Clark, but I feel more comfortable
Okay, feel free to
speaking
reach
with
out to
him,
him directly.
speaking with him in private.
That's fine,
So-
that's fine. Ms. Hebert, anything to?
No, I mean, I think it's for you guys to kind of discuss.
Well, it's
more.
somebody you're gonna be working with, so
Mhm.
just if you have any
Yes.
ideas
Yeah.
as to how you think that, just give me an opportunity. Mr. Clark, anything you wanna add, or,
No, I'm available, I mean, if you want to call and
you know, same
just-
thing, why don't you
and
feel
just
free to
chat.
reach out and have a
Yeah.
You know,
conversation?
I'm not
Absolutely.
interested in, you know, I know where my career track is, and I'm just here to help.
Yeah, I
If
appreciate
If
that.
there's ability to help, I will,
Mhm.
so.
Thank you.
And to support you. The idea is a tough profession, so the more people we can bring in and,
Mhm.
Yeah, well, you should see her to-do list, what do you see her to-do list?
I can imagine.
All right, Mr. Clark, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you very much for your time,
Good
appreciate
luck
it.
with your meeting, too.
And Mr. Clark had jury duty this morning, and we were
I did.
communicating during, the we thought he was,
Actually, it was a fairly significant.
Paneled, is that the
It was
word
a
for
fairly
jury?
significant trial.
Yeah,
And I got up and they only had 5 jurors, so not enough to go forward.
oh,
It was
yeah, we
Not
thought,
a-
you thought you were gonna be
below
on
a
the
murder
jury.
trial, but
Yeah,
yeah, a little more than I thought.
that was something, so,
I'm happy I was able to be here tonight.
thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
All right, moving on, old business. Town administrator's contract has been reviewed by us, reviewed by Julie, submitted to town council for review. They came back with their comments. All of the comments have been consolidated, assimilated into a final contract. I think everyone's had the chance to review that, and I think what we're looking to do now is approve it and sign it. So everybody on board with that? Any other questions or comments or discussion regarding the contract?
I reviewed it completely and falls in line with what, we agreed to a couple weeks ago.
Do you have an execution copy with you?
I do not,
I'll get you, I'm gonna email you one right now. You're not
Okay.
gonna be able to print it.
no, but I can ask if you can email Kristen Flynn.
Yeah, I can do that. Fine. Mr. Gasper, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, as I've alluded to in previous meetings, that I have my reservations, but after discussing with the board, Ms. Hebert as a candidate. I'm fine with supporting Ms. Hebert in her capacity as town administrator. I know that it'll be tough next year. I will become chairman in not too distant future, so I'm sure that the responsibilities for the chair will be stepped up a notch, but I'm happy to take on those
No,
responsibilities.
there'll be a different chair, the responsibilities won't change.
Something's gonna change. So we're gonna do everything we can to make it happen.
All right, let me find that. Yeah, follow. Let's see if I have an email from Kristen.
Right. So I have it.
Okay, give it to me.
It's Kristen with an I in the end, not the A, not me. Kristen Flynn at Acushnet Schools, WS.
Schools, I can't spell schools, it's
US.
US. All right, so it's the PDF version of it, you want to print, that's the red line. So she'll get this. Let's send.
We have a clean draft. If not, we can just sign it tomorrow.
Yeah, we got it. All right. So, back to the agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the town administrator's contract as distributed?
So moved.
Is there a second? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Budget hearing schedule, I sent you a email on the budget, one of the dates I was confused about.
Yeah, it said 25th, but it's the 24th.
It's the
March.
20th, so we are gonna do a meeting on the 24th.
If that works, yeah.
Yeah, we need to,
Yeah.
March 24th.
It's here.
Yeah, it's on that, but
Okay.
we hadn't, that says March 25th.
24th.
24th.
Okay, so
The first one says February 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, mine says March 25th, so we got a different version than I do.
Okay, I believe you. But
That's
mine
the
says
email,
the
huh?
24th.
Yeah, it's the
Is it?
24th.
Yeah.
When was it sent?
How's that possible?
I know.
It's
I've got-
February
I'm looking at
5th.
an email.
28.
What you talking about, Willis? It's right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the date on that one? February 5th, 9:27 a.m.?
February 5th, 9/27, yeah.
Yeah, March 24th.
That's funny.
At the
minus-
bottom.
This
Yours
says the
says the
same thing
25th.
as mine.
It says February 25th, 2020 at the
Right.
top. But at the
All right,
bottom, it
that's-
says March
that's-
24th.
Okay,
It's
so,
irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
all right,
We're
let's, no, it doesn't, it's just odd. Okay, so scheduling a meeting for, March, we're adding a meeting to our schedule on
Monday,
March
March
24th at
17th,
5 PM, and that'll be a budget hearing. And as you can see, we've got a pretty good schedule ahead of us, so. Any questions on the schedule?
Just one,
Well-
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Ms. Gasper, go.
So February 25th, we're bringing in Joe Correa from the Board of Health. We don't control the Board of Health budget. I'm assuming that there may be some discussion of the soil board?
The Board of Health, the part-time agent. So when I picked departments for who you would maybe want to meet with, I looked at departments that had significant changes as well as the ones that were under the
Okay.
purview. So where Board of Health is looking for the part-time agent funded this year, I figured I would add it on there for you to discuss.
How about the Board of Assessors, Ms. Kloskowitz?
So she has, her regular operational budget doesn't have too many changes. She's had some increases for her consulting, but she's looking for a capital article for a consultant to help with the zoned industrial analysis
Oh, yeah.
that I thought might be worth you guys.
Okay, thank you.
And is there a discrepancy that you received?
Like I said, when I went to Kathy, I'm just the first to me, so
Okay,
I'm on the 17th, that's.
You're on the 17th.
17th.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
okay.
Probably at the office, I will.
And we've got a joint meeting with the school department as well, that's not here, that's been scheduled.
Yes, so that is March, I believe it's the 11th. Let me just check.
So that's in the same time. Yeah, I've got it on March 11th.
Okay, yeah, it was a
7
Wednesday. then.
7 o'clock.
Yeah,
March 11th at
March
7
11th.
PM.
And
yeah.
that'll be a published meeting for us as well.
Yes, everyone will have to post.
Finance
It's not
committee
on the list.
opens, we open, the school department opens, so it's a
Yeah.
published meeting for all of us.
Yeah, at a meeting.
And then that will be
March
here
11th.
or
March
at the
11th.
town hall?
That was,
It'll
last
be
time
here
I
at
was
the
here in the
school.
library, they set up a
Yeah.
horseshoe table, it was, yeah. It was a good meeting last year. I think it's important that we understand what the school department, the challenges the school department has and what their budget looks like.
Mhm.
Any
That-
questions on the, sorry, go ahead.
Would that be with the whole school committee?
That would be with the whole
Yes.
school committee, yeah, yeah. Ms. Flynn presents their budget and did a nice job, nice PowerPoint last year, helps us understand the challenges they've got in their budget. And it was a very useful meeting last year.
Okay.
And the finance committee's there, full finance committee, so it's good, it's a good session. Any other questions on the budget hearing schedule? We've got a busy month in March,
It looks it every week.
every week
Yeah.
in March. Other questions on the budget hearing schedule? No votes necessary.
Mhm.
Unless I don't think we need to approve the schedule, that's fine.
No. If you do, when you're looking through your budget, so if you see any that are not listed that you want to
Yeah.
meet with, let me know, we can schedule them.
Yeah, if there's anything that's, and I'm not, if there's anything that's not there that you want to,
Mhm.
think should come in, absolutely.
So when do we discuss available cash for budgeting reasons? Because we're gonna look at budgets, but we don't, the board usually knows what kind of funds are available.
Yep,
And that kind of, we can look at a budget till we're blue in the face,
absolutely.
but unless and until we understand exactly what we're using, what's available, how much free cash the board's comfortable spending this year, because we've been doing a reduction in free cash spending, and trying to rely mostly on the levy plus new growth and things of that nature. So I think that's a decision of the Board of Selectmen, so that we can keep taxation under control, because the more we spend, the higher the taxes are. So it's kind of, that's the conversation I think we need to really start with.
Yep,
So, maybe
I can add it to the next agenda too.
the
Even
next,
in a first pass at the budget, what
Yeah.
that looks like.
Yeah, I
The
can
the
get it
free
out
cash
to you.
number is $1,039,000.
we try not to spend too much of free cash, because free cash is something that we should have every year for capital projects. We've talked about that. I know DOR looks at that and likes to recognize and see it on a continuous basis at a certain level. We can't deplete all of our free cash and budget, and in 2 or 3 years, we have no more free cash, right?
Right.
So we'll figure that out.
So I'll give you guys the,
Next meeting, maybe we can look at the
yeah,
funds
I
available.
can send it to you ahead of time, but we can put it on the budget so that at least if you want to discuss it.
The free draft showing what our
Mhm.
estimated revenue sources are, estimated
Oh, yeah.
expenses, and what the bottom line looks like.
And then our
I
fixed
know it's
costs,
preliminary.
because we don't have insurance, pensions on this list.
Best guess.
Bristol County for the schools over there, that went up like 75 grand, so we need to see those increases as well, to see how much is being eaten away from fixed costs.
We're going to the budget hearing this week? What are we doing this week?
For Old Colony,
Colony.
they
That's
have a
on my-
meeting tomorrow.
Are
at
we going to
6.
that? We're going to that?
Yes.
It's in my
we're going
calendar,
to.
okay.
Yeah. It should just be a half hour, they said.
Okay.
This is finance committee
Some
meeting at
calendar.
7, so, yeah.
Okay.
For Old Colony's budget.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Doing a
yeah,
presentation.
It's about that time, we're in
Yeah.
February,
So
so.
maybe they'll give us a number.
So what we have plugged in now is just an estimate.
Yep.
We'll get that number and plug it in.
But
Sure.
nice, even with all the estimates, it'd be nice to look at what the bottom line, what we're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, union wage and classification, RFP was distributed.
Yep, so if you guys want to look through it and add any comments, this is a draft of the invitation for bids for the union wage and class update. As you know, we had put something in the clerical union contract that we would do this, so that's why we're working on it right now.
We committed to doing this as part of that contract.
We did. So, if you want to look over, add any comments, the only things that, not the only things, but things that we may want to update would just be the dates, depending on when everyone's okay with, the structure of what's here. I used what we had.
We have funding for this, right? There was an article,
Yes.
we've got the money.
$10,000 was approved at town meeting. And so I used the outline that was done when we had the non-union invitation for bids, and just added some other language to it. I know that some of the comments, I know Mr. Gasper, when I talked to you earlier, some of the things that reference the town administrator approval, I can add / Board of Selectmen, if that's helpful. But otherwise, if you have any other comments, I can make adjustments and then we can post this.
It seems pretty thorough. This is not what I do, so I couldn't tell you what's missing, but it seems pretty thorough. It seems to be the kinds of things we should be. It seems like, where'd it go? I just had it, it disappeared. It just was on my screen, it's gone. It seems like it's pretty comprehensive and it covers everything we should be thinking about. It talks about the fact that we want to look at comparable salaries in 10 towns, which we're going to identify, and we already did that work 6 months ago. We identified what we believe to be our comparable communities. So,
Yes.
you know, what do these positions pay in other towns to look
Right.
at that? This appears to be pretty good.
There's just some language changes, Mr. Chairman, if we could review it and submit any kind of
Absolutely.
changes as individuals to Ms. Hebert. And then next
Absolutely.
meeting collectively, we'll review the changes of what's inside of here, because Ms. Hebert pulled it from the previous ones, which I was, I wasn't in favor of that last wage classification. So there are some little changes, some dates and stuff I talked to Ms. Hebert about, not overly concerned about it, but it will be something that will be being done.
Do we need to
And
vote?
hopefully-
Do we need to vote this?
And finalized.
Do we need to vote the RFP?
I mean, you don't need to vote it, but it'd be good to have all of your collaboration on it.
Yeah, we all want to be in on it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, so
I'm
there's
just
some.
saying, submit your comments, maybe just circulate them, so we can see what you're proposing to
Yeah,
change.
that's fine, and
Okay.
if everybody, I said that to Ms. Hebert, I said, I don't know if it has to be done in open session, but as long as the board can put their input in it, so that in 6 months, whenever this is finalized and done for the board to be reviewing it, we're not saying, that's not what I would have done, kind of what I did last time, right? Because that wasn't done through the Board of Selectmen, it was just done through the town administrator, and we know how many errors we had in that one. So if we're gonna do this, I'd like to try to do it as properly as we can, so that we have a group document, standing document for the town moving forward, that's all.
So let's agree that we'll each look at the RFP, make whatever changes are necessary, we believe necessary, get them to Ms. Hebert, and if you could circulate the comments of the other selectmen to us, and I'm not sure if we need to vote the RFP,
Unless there's a disagreement
unless
amongst the
there's
board
a
members.
Unless it's a disagreement,
Yeah, that's fine.
Unless there's a
I don't have a
disagreement.
problem.
I mean,
I told that to
Yeah.
Ms. Hebert, I said, we
Yeah.
got it, we know what it is. If everybody's in agreement with changes, or nobody wants to make changes, or if there's a couple of changes, if we're in agreement, we can just fire it off and get started on
Yeah.
it.
And we have been looking at to the other towns, Rachel's been kind of contacting some of the other towns to do the comparable comparison. It's kind of hard to get back to you, but working on it.
And that's on the
Yeah.
contractor as well, to do some of that, right? And they put it back on us.
It's,
Well, we were trying to do some of it ourselves just to see if
Okay.
we could get some of the comparable
there's
ones.
a
and then-
way, there's a way for us to do that, and it's through the Freedom of Information request, so that if we have X amount of department heads for the non-union department heads that we did previously, like we're trying to redo, there's a way of doing it where nobody can stop from giving you the information, and that is through the Freedom of Information request. So we just put all the department heads that we want, the salaries, years of experience, any criteria that we want. We send that off to the communities. That gives them 10 days to get back to us with the information we're requesting. And if not, we send a letter to the Attorney General saying they're not fulfilling their request, so, and we'll get the information we need. So I've had no problem getting the information in the past from communities, so sometimes they're just hung up, like we are budget
The vision,
season.
yeah, the vision.
And they kind of kick the can, so if we
Yeah, we
did it,
want that, we need that.
if we did it through a Freedom
For
of
the study to
Information,
be a good study, we need that.
we did it through a Freedom of Information request, we'll get all the information that we need, and Rachel doesn't have to pull her hair out trying to keep calling these people back to get the information, so.
All
And we've
right,
pretty
so
much
that's, we got a plan
established
for
the
that.
Administrator's position.
That's correct. That's what I did.
Moving into new business. Presidential warrant approval from the town clerk, I'm confused about what this is. What's the March 3rd, 2020 date? Are we voting for president then? Because I'm ready. I got it, I can't.
That's
the
Super
primary.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's the primary.
Oh, that's our primary, oh, okay, I didn't know what that date was.
That's the primary, so if you're a Democrat, you only get a Democratic ticket, if you're a Republican, you get a Republican ticket, if you're what they call undecided or an independent, you have to pick what ticket you want.
Presidential primary, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was
That's how that
confused.
works.
March 3rd, okay.
Yeah, Super Tuesday.
Okay, do we need to vote this?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think you have to sign off
yes,
on it.
because you have to sign up, so I would say
Vote it and we'll sign it.
Motion to
Right, motion
appoint,
to-
I mean, to approve the,
Presidential primary warrant.
As presented, and I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Any opposed? All right, soil board permit approval, the soil, this is one of the 2 soil permits we have in town. This is the non-controversial one. My understanding is this is one that's not even really used, but they renew it because it's harder to get it. If they didn't renew it, it'd be hard to get it brand new, so they just renew it. And there aren't really any materials coming out of this property, but the soil board does renew this.
There is
this
a
permit.
construction company listed here as somebody that would be
Pico
doing this.
Construction.
Pico
Yeah.
Construction, and they have,
Right.
it's been under that name for years, whether or not, how much soil removal, Mr. Chairman,
I'm
you're
led-
doing,
I'm led to believe.
we
there's
don't know, but there's a
none.
limit on it of
None.
15,000
No.
cubic yards. I wouldn't imagine they're pulling 15,000 cubic yards out of them, so motion
Seminar,
to approve.
He actually does stone work over there.
Okay.
And I think he cuts stones, and he has a place in New Bedford, so I think he's just using that facility to cut stones. So it's actually, I think stone's brought in, and he cuts it, and it's for landscapers and stuff like that.
So we have motion.
I'll second the motion.
Second, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Item 3 on the new business, DPW capital purchase approvals, review matters. Mr. Menard, capital items acquired.
Yep. I got a few there, which you guys want to go over first. One
In
of them was
any, in
the,
any order you want. I think
You want some
this
with
is
signs?
here because, you know, while there are, there's certainly budget capital items, I think the board wants to understand what we're acquiring and when we're acquiring it. And I don't know what that dollar amount needs to be, but I just think it's probably good practice to communicate to the board of selectmen the kind of, when we're buying capital items.
Yep, no, that's fine. Again, it wasn't in the past. This is my bad on this one, the sign.
No, I know, there's not been a policy, so
Yeah.
you've not done anything wrong. I
Yeah.
think you're just saying there should be a policy
Yeah.
for capital items above a certain dollar amount.
Okay.
It feels like it's good practice that,
Oh, I agree with
before we're
that. I
spending
agree.
that kind of money, we should be talking about it. So, not criticizing the way anything's done, there's probably not been a policy in the past, but
Nope.
we're trying to put one in place going forward, so.
This,
bring-
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Manette, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I think the reason is, this is actually from the budget, so it's not something that was anticipated as a capital item and approved previously by the board through like articles and things of that nature.
Yeah, this
That's
is
why
going
it's a
through the
budget.
the road
He's got money in the
materials, right?
budget, he's looking to purchase something, and that's why it's here in front of us. Is that correct, Mr. Manette?
Correct.
Thank you.
I guess we'll start with the
Okay,
sign
go.
board. The sign board, it's actually been giving us a hard time for the last 5 years. Problem with it is it doesn't communicate with, we have to communicate with the computer to put the message on the board.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's got a mind of its own. Sometimes it don't want to take the message, and sometimes it does. It's been kind of off and on for the last few years. It just finally, it does not communicate with the computer at all.
Okay.
The new one is on the sign itself, so we can just punch in what we want on the screen. It comes up and it is, so it's
Yeah,
part of
alright.
the sign. The other problem with the sign is it had a lot of bulbs out, and you guys must have noticed that a lot of bulbs
Yeah.
are out.
I have seen
So,
that.
you cannot replace bulbs with that. You know, that sign we have.
Uh-huh.
So you had to replace the whole board, which would have cost the same as buying a new one. So that's why we needed to, you know, get a new one.
Okay.
And the sign's used for everything, and again, you just said something about the election, it'll be out there for that. It's used for, you know, road races, it's used for us for road construction, or, you know, it's used for the whole town. So that's why I was looking to get, you know, getting that sign.
Does the what's the public safety group called?
Safety
Safety
committee?
committee, yeah.
That's all
Do they have,
Emergency
do they have a
management.
sign that's unused, or?
No, not that I know of.
EMA.
EMA.
Oh,
Yeah.
EMA,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jerry really don't.
They have light boards
Yeah, I know
and
it's a
big
light
lights that are on
Yep.
trailers that come in and we.
But they
can-
don't have a sign.
Like at the car show and things of that nature, we,
Yeah, I don't think.
and you can
that-
explode a whole side of a building, they've done that, Food Branch,
Okay.
Jerry's done a good job with that, but no, this is something that Mr. Menard, we've had conversations, he's picking up the expense in his budget, but it is something that's used for multiple
Yep.
departments.
So I just want to make sure we don't
We're
have another one.
exorbitant.
Somebody said we might have another one, that's not good.
Not that I know of, and
Okay.
again, everybody comes to us for, if they want the sign out there and what they want on it, the police will give me an email, what they want and what date, and, you know, or Pam will contact me, again, I already know now, because that's March 3rd. So we'll be putting the sign out for that as well.
Super Tuesday, huh?
Yeah.
I knew that.
So, you know, usually everybody, because we take care of it, it's at our town barn, you know, maintain it, plug it in, keep the batteries up, charged and stuff like that. Even if the batteries need replacing, which the old sign had to be replaced a couple times, so, you know, we maintain it as well. So if there is no one, I don't know, and who maintains it, and I've never had it.
Yeah, the one that we've had is probably, what, 15 years old though?
Oh, yeah, well, it's been there before.
Maybe longer.
Since I've been here, I've been here 9 years,
So it's,
and I don't know how long before.
and I don't know if you noticed when we had it, Mr. Menard had it parked in Town Hall parking lot about the halfway road closure. It's pretty sad when you have to drive by it and you have to actually stop to read it because you can't catch it because the bulbs are missing. So it was long overdue.
Yeah.
And as the rabies clinic, it said babies clinic.
Yeah, that's,
Oh.
yeah.
Babies clinic, not rabies clinic.
Yeah, that's actually coming up too, so that's gonna.
That's right,
Which
that's
one?
right, in March.
Yep.
Right.
What else you have, there's other items listed here? Should we
Yeah,
go through
well,
those quickly?
these are, some of them are, one of them's for our pump station. I don't know if you guys get the one from Williams, pump and motor,
Got a bunch of things, got a bunch of
it's for
things.
10,000.
So
So that's with the price installed. That's a little more out of our.
what is this, Mr. Menard?
These are actually,
Pump and
they're
motor,
knife
yeah.
valves that are inside the pump station, and it comes from our tank, and it goes into our pumps. And these valves, we exercise and stuff, so so if we have to replace a pump or something happens to it, it's a valve that you shut, so you can work on the
10-5.
pump, so you can work on the pump.
Is this a pump for sewer?
Correct, this is at the Slocum Street Pump Station.
So
This is
with
our
this,
main
with
station.
this approval for the $10,460, that would be from the sewer reserve fund that we have in the line
The
items there?
sewer enterprise, correct, it's coming out of that.
Would it be out of the 50,000 for the reserve, remember the reserve line item we have there?
I don't know. Yeah,
This
I-
is actually coming out of one of our line
Budget?
items, yeah, correct.
So it's a budget line, it's not out of the 50 grand?
Correct.
Okay, we just,
Yep.
it's important for us to understand
Yep,
if we're voting it and if it's coming out of the 50 grand, because that 50 grand's depleting the surplus. And
Yep.
that's something that the board, I know as a member of the board, I like to keep track of the reserve and see where it's going and what we're spending money on.
Yep.
So this is out of the
but
sewer.
it's gonna, you know, take a good hunk out of that budget.
You think you got it in the budget to be able to accommodate this expenditure from the budget, not from the 50 grand is my question. So as long as you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. But it is from sewer, not the DPW budget.
Miller?
Mueller, that's,
Mueller?
sorry, let me see what the one is on
It's
it.
$21,000 item.
That's, that is for our MTUs, which we've been doing this since we started that.
How do you spell that?
Mueller, this is
Yeah.
Mueller.
No, what's an MTU?
Oh,
MTU?
MTU is, it's a radio communication device, that's how we read your meters now. So, the old ones, they give us a daily read. Now, these new MTUs, they read hourly. So, this is part of the meter change-out program, so as we're changing meters, we're putting the new MTUs on, which these are the ones on the side house. Some are in the ground, some are in the basements, they're all over, but that's our communication to our computers at our office. So like, that's why if, we'll know you have a leak before you do.
So we're buying 200 of them, which will be stalled on,
Correct, we do 300 a year, we're doing
Homes.
300 meters a
okay?
year, so as we're doing a meter, we're replacing these as well. Again, this is to do with the new system. I think 2 years ago, we got the new antennas, we got 5 new antennas for the read system, and this is just all part of the new system. And again, it's so much better, even with customers and homeowners, and if people leave, like, we'll know, it'll alert the computer in the morning, so we can call you up and say, hey, what's going on in your house? You get a lot of water usage in a certain amount of time. And it's helped us stop a lot of things, you know, and we've been down and shut, so, you know, people don't have, you know, really high water bills.
You know, when we're talking about capital items, I'm not sure where we draw the line. But
Oh, okay, well, I mean,
this feels like,
Part of daily
it feels like daily
It
routine.
kind of is, because we got a 300, you know, we got a.
So the signboard feels like a capital item, this feels like
Okay.
a operating item. So I
Okay.
don't,
I mean,
think
that's fine.
to
I
be
mean, I don't-
conservative, but we should
Okay.
probably, you know, bring them all in, I suppose, above a certain dollar amount.
Is there a,
So-
okay.
No, Mr. DeRoche, go.
Okay.
After you.
Is there an estimated amount of how many we're gonna eventually need? Is this something,
Well,
a
this
couple
is-
hundred a year?
Well,
or
this is
is
what
this-
we got 3,000 water users, so we got on a plan before, when I first got here, what they did was they replaced everybody at once, we did all 3,000. So it cost the taxpayer, well, water users, whatever, it's like 700 grand, because they had a company even come and install them. So rather than doing that, and then now, 15 years from now, the meters all stop reading slower, and then that's when you lose the water. So what happened is, now I gotta replace all these meters at once, so you're
Okay.
back into a big debt. So we decided, the board, actually, I don't know if Kevin was on the board at that
I was.
point, and we decided we're gonna do 300 a year,
All
you know,
right.
so 10 years would be over, and then at that point, we either stop back with the first,
Yep.
you know, we keep track, it's all on our computers, we actually got a book too, that this is what we did this year, so we got all the books of every year. Well, I think we've been 3 years in now, so we know
Okay.
what we've been replaced so far. So that's what we've been doing, and it's not such a burden on the water users, it's doing only 300 a year instead of just trying to do the whole 3,000 at once, so.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Mr. Gaston.
So, just to top off what Mr. Mart's saying, so that Mr. DeRoche understands, and what we did in 2014, when the Board of Selectmen took over the Board of Public Works at town meeting, the town meeting actually dissolved the Board of Public Works and turned it over to the Board of Selectmen. We then looked at the budget, we separate out the debt, $208,000, $209,000 from the water debt, and we put that as a $20 a month on every user, because that's what it needs to pay if you do the calculation. This is not coming from the budget, this is already carried in the budget, and it's on the water meters, and we capture enough, there's $5 a month on everybody's, $5 a quarter on everybody's billing, and that says water meter, $5, so we captured those costs, and we calculated that over a 10-year plan, as Mr. Menard said, roughly 3,000 users, the meters are roughly good for 10 years apiece, so if we start off here, we said, okay, the board in 2014 said, okay, then we're gonna do 300 a year. We have one employee that's really just dedicated, Mr. Abreu, that's dedicated to the meter replacement, so we do our best to do 300 a year. This is here because the expense for the new meters, reading in smaller increments, is a little bit more than the previous meter, but we still capture that amount in a budget line item that's labeled water meters in our budget. So he's just putting it there saying it's an expense, but this is something that's carried already inside the budget. It's not something outside of the budget that's not a known, so this is already a known, so,
Okay.
you know, he's putting this in front of us to make sure we know, but
It is
it's something that's already captured, and
Right.
it's separated on the bill, the water bill, so it's already captured there. There's no increase really technically to the budget, even though you see the budget go up, that is something that's separated out on the water bill. So even if the budget goes up, even that number, as long as we have enough to carry that expense, it's not really increasing the rate for the users because it's separated out as a separate line item on the water bill as a water meter fee, $5.
Okay.
And Mr. Menard, the last item was Bobcat.
Yep, that is actually an attachment for the Bobcat that we own already. This is a plate compactor, which we currently, again, this is part of the road material thing I took this out of, and, well, we're looking to take it out of, and currently we have hand compactors, so if we're working in trenches, we gotta go in there with hand. So this is more like a safety thing. This is actually a little bigger, which it compacts better than the handheld ones we do now. And this one goes on to the machine, so nobody's in the hole. You got the machine running the compactor. You know, because these things are in the trench, they vibrate, and you know, you're getting a chance of
Right. Oh, yeah.
balls and everything else. So this is more a safety item. Plus, there's a little, if we're gearing up to do more like water and sewer, hopefully in the future, that we'd have something that we can compact the trenches better than regular the small hand compactor. So that's where we can get
So this goes on the
mini excavator.
Oh, it's going on the mini excavator.
Yeah, so the arm-
So again, this is water. Are you taking this from water? Or are you gonna
Well, I
take?
kind of want to, because this is kind of it's going to be used for
Tower.
everything. It's going to be used for trenching, for,
Okay, so
it's,
DPW.
yeah, it's pretty much DPW. Because we're going to use it for, it's not going to be just water, sewer, it's going to be drainage,
Okay,
you know, whatever, so.
okay. So it looks like we have more than what we have on these little itemized sheets that we were, pretty sure we approved more than what's on this sheet right now.
So I've got the
That's
Bobcat
the
at
procurement form.
$5,800.
That was for the message board. That's just
Yeah.
the procurement form that showed the other companies that bid, that they.
Oh, that's what that.
Bobcat, $5,800, Mueller for $21,000. Williamson Pump and Motor, $10,500 rounding.
Mhm.
And the last one was the message board, which we have. So, and Mr. Menard, I'm not sure where we draw the line on this. Again, some of these seem to be capital items, others seem to be routine day-to-day.
Yeah.
The meter items seem to be routine, but I think just, best practice is probably just even send a memo saying,
Yep.
these are the things I'm looking to purchase.
Yep, and then I can always send it to Julie,
Yeah.
and Julie can say, hey, this is what we're
Right.
looking at, and then at that point, she can actually talk with you guys and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is
I
something.
mean, we're meeting all the
Yeah.
time, it feels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Probably, so, yeah, it's fine.
Perfect.
Do we
Thank you,
need to
Dan.
vote these? Probably wouldn't hurt. Why don't we, can we get a motion to approve the capital expenditures requested?
So moved.
And I'll
Is there a
second.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Menard.
Dan, when you send these over to the town accountant, can you just write the department it's coming from? When you do it?
Yeah, that's no
Yeah.
problem.
This way there, they know what department, which they get funds
Yeah,
from.
they will.
Like the sewer one, it's sewer not.
Yeah, actually Kathy's really good with
Yeah.
that.
Just make sure that we're labeling up right, so they're
She
coming
keeps
out of
me in
the.
the straight.
We want to make sure we're pulling from the right accounts, that's all.
Okay,
Not
guys.
everybody knows that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Menard.
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, town administrator's report, we get the free cash certification. I think I ruined that surprise already, didn't I?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention it because it had come through. So for the general fund, our certified free cash was $1,039,191. The sewer enterprise, their retained earnings, same as free cash, just a different word because it's an enterprise. So sewer had a total of $276,184. And the golf enterprise had a total of $399,921.
So this is the reserve fund, not the earnings for the year. This is the
Yeah.
reserve fund.
So this is free cash, so it's whatever monies are not designated for something, it's your extra money essentially.
Surplus account. I think it's in the budget as surplus account.
And so for sewer and
So
golf,
the,
it's
so the
the
golf
same.
course didn't make $400,000
No.
last year. This is
No.
their
They
retention.
made
No.
I wish.
So this is
I'm just trying
the,
to,
yeah,
this would be the sum of
the
their reserve
savings
and their
account that
profits.
nothing is designated for already. So, yeah, their total cash might have been closer to, say, 700,000, but the DOR looks at, well, what things are already accounted for something else. So when they appropriated $150,000 at town meeting for their reserve
Capital items,
funds
yeah.
or capital items, that gets pulled out of their cash total, and this is what's left.
This was a $400,000.
Balance of surplus account.
Yeah, so essentially, these monies are monies that are available for capital items at town meeting.
Future.
Yeah, any future.
And the water fund, we don't show here. I know it's a different kind of fund, but it just
Yeah.
feels like that should be here too.
Water revenue fund.
Yeah.
It should be, but the DOR, and
They don't
when we
certify.
get
They
our,
don't
when-
certify it. 'cause
when we
they're
get
not-
our audit statements, that's one thing I always look for, and I'm like,
Well, it
but
should-
it's
feels like it
not.
should-
It's
feels like it
called
should
a
be
water
here.
revenue fund. It was set up that way because the mass population is part of, like I was saying to you guys before, 90% of it, so it was always just left as a water revenue fund.
And my stuff isn't connecting right now, but I can tell you the water is over $1 million. I can get you the number for next meeting, but they're over $1 million in their SAM designated.
Anything else under town administrator's report?
No, that's all I had, and just to follow up on what we talked, the contract approval earlier. I appreciate the opportunity that you guys have given me, and I'm looking forward to working with you all and, doing my best to make it push it better. So I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to
You're
this.
gonna be a star.
Thank
You're
you.
gonna be a star. Selectmen announcements, anybody want to announce anything?
I have one, but not on camera.
Yeah, that's not, you shouldn't be saying it like that, so. All right, it's no executive session scheduled. So future business, our next meeting is in 30 minutes, so I don't think we're going to adjourn. We've got a public hearing. So why don't we just recess and reconvene in the public hearing? We have a public hearing tonight on a license request by PJ Keating for a license to move their asphalt storage tanks from the back of their property to the roadway. And we sent out 300 letters to residents of Acushnet asking them, as well as called every house in Acushnet, inviting them to the session, so hopefully.
My neighbor told me they got like a reverse 911.
We got-
I was
we
like,
got-
I didn't get that, but my
I
neighbor
don't-
told me, and I said,
we
why'd you get
Yeah,
one?
I think you have to register through the website, right?
You do. Normally you have to register through the website, but it's a computer generated, even if you don't sign up for Code Red, it's computer generated. So if your number is
Your, like,
technically
house number?
you
Oh,
should
house
get,
number?
yeah, you should get it.
Yeah, that house
But-
number's been by for
Okay,
a
so
while.
that's why.
Yeah.
So you need to sign up for Code Red under the
I must.
computer.
Yeah, so they did the reverse 911 for the whole town, so whatever numbers were listed.
Sign me up for Code Red, Julie.
Yeah.
All right.
Could I
I'll
get a
sign you
motion
up.
to adjourn? It is
No motion to adjourn.
5:25, not adjourn,
Motion
to
to go
recess.
to
Motion to
recess.
recess to reconvene at 6 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are recessed.